Lethal, you're here. Welcome or welcome back to The False Face, whose fourth episode is a lovely 90-minute old-fashioned chinwag with Akercocke legend Jason Mendonca. I spoke to Jason very briefly outside a gig in Belfast one time, and I remember somewhere subconscious thinking to myself, wouldn't it be great to have a proper conversation with that dude sometime? And I think after several similar conversations with comedians at gigs, at some stage the seed was planted for what this channel has essentially become, which was this urge to pursue relaxed, non-rushed conversations with artists that I admire. And I'm sure if you've been here before, you've heard me say that, but I think this week was the first time that I properly realised that speaking to Jason 10, 11 years ago, whatever it was maybe the first time that I actually, thought underneath the layers of brain and hair, that this might be something that I want to pursue someday. This is a great chat. We really enjoyed ourselves. Jason's very funny. He's a great sense of humour. He's very honest. Lots of chat about his time in Akercocke, stuff that he was pleased with and stuff that he was not so pleased with. But there's great stories to be heard about the making of Goat of Mendes and Corns and Antichrist. Some news on Paul Scanlan's involvement with the band and discussion of various lineup changes over the years, as well as how Jason got into playing guitar in the first place and other instruments, the electronic work that he did in the 1990s, which I'm going to put in the description below as well, because I managed to get a choice recommendation from him. But it was also great just talking about stuff that he was into. His comedy taste is impeccable. And I just think it's a really, really good conversation. I'm so glad that he, agreed to give up an afternoon to talk to me. And if he ever wants to come back, there'll always be a spot here for him. You know what time it is, kids? It's time for me to plug, as always, James Nason's Mental Health for Metalheads, which is the first time I'm actually able to say this on the channel. Available now, the hardcover edition of the book. This is mine. You can't have it, but this is one. You can get this now from Cult Never Dies. Go there first. Get it from Cult Never Dies. It's also available on Amazon. If you're in the States, you can get a copy in Walmart. You can order it through Walmart. If you're here in the UK, you can get it from Waterstones. If you've got a time machine, you can get it in Woolies, Extravision, Electronic Exchange. But wherever you get it from, do get it and read it and tell a pal and look after your brain. False Facers, I say this with what seems like too much humour possibly, but this is an indispensable tome. Paperback edition. Again, this is mine, so you can't have it. Dig that Ed Rapka cover art. Paperback's available in, I think, about 2 weeks, and you'll be able to get the Kindle at the start of July as well, the digital version. But listen, I'm nearly done. I know I always go on for too long. Thanks for coming here. I appreciate you choosing to spend your free time with me and Mr. Mendonca. It's bore. I gotta say it. If you like the video, please like it. Subscribe to the channel if you want to see more upcoming chats with guys from Napalm Death, Nile, Fear Factory, bunches more. And most importantly, because I keep forgetting to say this, if you have anything to say, put it in the comments. I love hearing from people. I love chatting to people. It's a stone cold gas to have you, but it's even colder to actually get a chance to just have a little bit of back and forth with people. Love yous. Thanks for being here. And I'm away. That's me. Here's Jason Mendonca, and you know what? We have a lot of stuff to talk about, but I say, why don't we start with Rush?
Let's kick off with Rush.
Yeah, let's do it. This is an exciting time. Have you been paying much attention to clips on YouTube and online chatting and all of that stuff?
Yeah, I wouldn't say fanatically, but someone released a video, I think, of Xanadu from the first night of tour, and it was someone's cell phone footage from up high from the side.
Yes.
And ordinarily for any other band, I don't think I'd be that bothered to watch something like that. But do you know what? It was such a kind of I don't know even how to articulate it. Such a significant moment to see them back in the live arena and with Annika on the drums, and so So I have paid attention. And since then I've watched, I think, 3 or 4 clips from different bits of the tour. Yeah, and I'm just pissed that I'm not going, really. I really am. I looked the other day at London tickets, and I found one that was available in the, I don't know, American Express something section of the O2.
Yeah.
It was like 450 quid.
Yeah, it's nuts, isn't it?
I was like, on what planet does anyone, I mean, maybe it's me because I'm just old and miserable, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But like, I'm not going to pay 450. I wouldn't pay 450 quid to see God, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
people
pay some. Then my mate, I got onto one of my grumpy old friend mates.
Yeah.
I went, can you believe this? Like, it's 450 quid to go and see Rush. And he went, I've got a ticket. And I went, yeah. And he went, and it was more than that.
Yeah. I remember a couple of years ago paying for a ticket to see Dream Theater for Mike Portnoy's first gig back since leaving the band, 15 years, whatever it was. And I paid about $260 for that ticket, but I thought because of the way that it was advertised on Ticketmaster that it included the VIP package, that there was going to be the meet and greet and some merch and bits and pieces like that. And I kind of justified it that way, thinking that there would be some extra gubbins and maybe a little bit of personal interaction. And it turns out that that's just what Ticketmaster calls their expensive tickets. They just call them VIP tickets. And that there was a separate VIP thing, but you had to buy it on a different website, and that was another couple of $100. And I didn't end up, getting that in time. But at the time, I thought, yeah, that's a serious outlay. But £450 that's £150 a member. No, I forgot about the keyboard guy. But yeah, that's some dough. Like,
I paid some money. I'm going to go see Iron Maiden soon at Nebworth.
Yeah.
Martin Bonsoir emailed me, like, Iron Maiden. And I was like, yeah, brilliant. Let's go and see Maiden. Love Maiden. And I paid an eye-watering, I think it was like, I can't remember, like 150 or 200 pounds. I think that's the most I've ever paid for a gig.
Yeah, yeah. Will that be your first time seeing them with the new chap on the drums?
Yes.
I feel like an absolute arsehole for not remembering that guy's name.
What, the new bloke?
Yeah.
Oh, I haven't got a clue. British, doesn't he come from British Lion?
That's Steve's son? Is that Steve's son's band? Yeah.
No, that's Steve's band.
That's Steve's band. What am I thinking about? Yeah.
That's like his A-side project. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah. Closest we're getting over here is Nico's doing a book tour later in the year, in theaters and stuff like that. And I'm really, really looking forward to just listening, just to be in the same room as that man, listening to him.
Yeah.
Talk that inimitable Nico way for a couple of hours. Like,
amazing. That'll be really, really entertaining, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Really good value.
I want to steer us back into the realm of praising Rush, though, because we can give off about Ticketmaster prices and whether that's management's fault or whatever the crack is. But you're right, that footage is astounding to watch, and even, like you said, to see the moments of, the first moments of that show. That I think you might have been watching the same angle that I was from up in the gods, and that camera is trained on Annika for the whole gig, and I've watched the full 3-hour show twice just to see what it's like, and it's brilliant. I'm so pleased for all of them, because the guys seem to be really, really enjoying themselves, and her company, and she is astounding. And what's really surprising, Jason, is that she's changing things. So they haven't given her the instruction to play this rote, play the roles, everything the same way. Yeah. She's been given a bit of artistic license, which I think is so respectful. And then what she's doing with that artistic license is really, really exciting. So
completely, completely. I don't know. Do you watch Rick Beato at all?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
So Rick Beato did interviews with all 3 of them. And I think at the end of Geddy's interview, Alex chipped in and they just turned up, and they were really lovely to watch. Actually, I really enjoyed. I don't know what it is. I always find it really, really pleasing when musicians or I'm going to say it, heroes that I've had since I was a boy. When you find out, or when you get a sense. Because obviously I don't know them, I've never met them, but you get a sense that they're really super nice guys,
Yeah.
And Annika seems, her interview's the briefest of all of them. I think it's like 20 minutes long. She seems ace as well, right? But
yeah.
But they just I find that really, really gratifying. It always really disappoints me when someone that you've really respected musically, and then you either see them interviewed and they behave badly, or you meet them in real life and they're just not very nice. I don't know. It shouldn't matter, should it? It really, should affect your view of their canon of work or whatever. But no, it just knowing, I mean, I've read Neil's book. I've read one of them. I read Ghost Rider, and you get a sense of him as a person from that, I think, or certainly, some angles, surely. But just to see Alex and Geddy interviewed like that, and they just came across as just really, really down to earth, solid blokes, and I found that really, really cheering.
I really agree with that, and I think too that Geddy, you kind of get the sense that Geddy knows he's hot shit, but like he's very, very personable. But Alex, I have never seen somebody that good, that humble. And I honestly can't think of any other guitarist. I mean, Jesus Christ, he's nearly to the point of self-deprecating, but he doesn't tip it over into that because that wouldn't seem genuine. But that for that whole interview with Rick, he's so I don't know. I mean, he's almost like too humble to take a compliment. Almost. It's like, but you're Alex Lifeson, do you know what I mean? So I suppose Alex Lifeson would have been a big influence on you as a guitar player, then, Jason, or was it the whole band, or what? Because you'd said in the liner notes for the nice fancy pants edition of Renaissance and Extremist, there's talk in there about you getting your hands on a copy of Exit Stage Left and it making a big impression on you.
Yeah, that was my introduction to Rush. I went to a friend's house after school when I just started secondary school. So what are you, like 11, 12? I would have been about 12, I think. And I went to this dude's house after school, and his parents had a Betamax video player. I don't know if you know what that is, but
I do, yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to be patronising.
No, it's okay. No, it's okay. It's okay. No, people don't know what any kind of video player is that are watching this, probably.
Yeah, right. So they had this Betamax video machine, and his older brother had the Exit Stage Left video cassette. And this fella, he's a career after. We were talking about Rush, and I watched that, and it just blew my mind. It just blew me away. And I remember, I think afterwards, but certainly at that time, getting a train into London, because I grew up in the suburbs out west near the airport. And I remember getting a tube train, a long grinding tube train journey from Uxbridge into Piccadilly, and going to, I think, the Virgin Megastore, or I think it was one of the shops on Oxford Street, can't remember which, and buying Caress of Steel and 2112 on original Mercury cassette.
Yeah.
And just being so, coveting these cassettes and getting them home and putting them in the machine and just being like, whoa. Yeah, and just been a massive Rush fan ever since then, really. Yeah, some of their later stuff, they kind of lost me a bit with certain records, but I think certainly everything up to the 80s and including the 80s, I absolutely adore. Yeah,
I think that's been a common thread with everybody I've spoken to so far. There seemed to be a universally appreciated force for good amongst musicians. Everyone can find something to like about Rush. I remember the first time I heard them was on, do you remember Futurama? It was Matt Groening's other show, not The Simpsons, and there was a joke about Rush in one of those episodes. I mean, it must have been like a 7-second clip of Tom Sawyer, and I thought, I need more than 7 seconds of this, and then went off down the rabbit hole, and here I am 20 plus years later.
Oh wow, that was where you first. I see.
It was a joke about a guy going to an arcade to play computer games, but he, to save Earth, he was playing essentially like I think it was Space Invaders, but it was controlling actual spaceships, something like that. And he says, this will be just like the 80s. I've got my 2-liter bottle of Shasta and my All Rush mixtape. And then it cuts to the 7 seconds of him listening to Tom Sawyer, and I just thought, that sounds really, really interesting. I think given what I was listening to, I probably would have ended up listening to them anyway, and so I would have found them by some path, but that was the weird route that I circumnavigated to get there. Do you think that Alex's bright red blazer in that videotape was any influence on how you guys ended up looking on stage 25 years later?
I don't know about that, but just again, you get a sense of them as like being the real kind of like playful pals that they are.
Yeah.
So when they're like messing each other's hair up and stuff, like trying to put each other off with the double necks, it's like, brilliant on stage antics. Just yeah.
And that doesn't seem to have changed either. I mean, even with the footage from the new shows, it's just like I think 72-year-old dudes just having the best time, and they're still so good, because obviously all the footage that we're seeing so far is just raw kind of camera phone footage. There's no space for edits or trickery or anything like that. And Getty's doing so well, and Alex is doing so well. It's so cool to see. Well, Jason, I have done my research, and funny enough, actually, you'll not remember this, but I forgive you for it. We've spoken before. We talked briefly outside a gig in Belfast once a couple of years ago. Back on, you played Voodoo on the Renaissance tour, and I grabbed you to confirm that Carla was your sister, because I'd always wondered about that. Yeah. And so I was thinking about how. So for anybody that's watching this that doesn't know, Jason's sister Carla would be probably best known to most people as the second mother from My Parents Are Aliens. But for a comedy nerd like me, it's really, really significant that she was in Bottom and The Young Ones. And I think she's been on Coronation Street the past couple of years as well. Every time they need the headmaster to turn up, that's it. Yeah, there's her. So I'm thinking about, you're in the media. If not in the media, but you're in the entertainment, what's the arts is probably the best way to put it. Quite a high profile musician, at least at one stage, with a very, very sterling legacy. Also, by the way, I apologize if compliments are not your thing, but I have so much good things to say about you and your work, so I just have to lay that out up front. But the point that I was getting at, I suppose, is between Carla's visibility and your visibility, and your brother had a successful career in the military as well. I'm just wondering what your upbringing was like. That, how were you supported or encouraged to end up in those sort of high visibility positions within the world of arts, with you and Caroline specifically?
Holy shoot, that's a really interesting and quite difficult question to answer, I think. It's funny, my mum's just outside that window. You could ask her; she'd probably be in a bit.
Get her in, yeah. Come on,
my mum's just having a cup of tea and a natter with my girlfriend out there.
She can be my fifth guest.
We'll fetch her in and ask her.
Yeah.
How did we end up? Yeah, I don't think anything was really sort of planned on that front. So, for my sister, I think it was a very, very different thing. Well, perhaps. On the surface, but thinking about it, maybe not so much. So my parents were both dancers at some point in their lives. They met as touring dancers in the 60s. And so in the early 60s, I think. So there's definitely, I think my dad had some kind of other artistic interests. I know that he was a painter of sorts. He used to a wannabe forger, maybe, painted some dodgy copies of some oil paintings, but he was a dancer. Yeah, that was his training, and as was my mum's. So I suppose there was a kind of artistic angle to our upbringing, in that we were brought up by my mum primarily, who's I don't think would mind me saying she's got kind of quite a theatrical sort of bent.
Yeah, okay.
And we grew up in a very, very modest environment, in a terraced house in near Heathrow Airport. And what was the question? Why did we end up in the arts? So Carla, I think, was there was no way that was not going to happen. Mm-hmm. So I think her and my sister, who was also a professional dancer, my other sister, ended up, going to Royal Academy of Dancing and having a brief kind of touring stage career before getting into teaching. Both my sisters took ballet lessons. Carla was, encouraged to play the piano, and is actually very, very good at that.
Okay, yeah.
And so, there was no way that she wasn't going to end up on the stage. I think that's probably what she's always wanted. I've never asked her about it, but I suspect that that's the case. That was her mission.
But the main thing was there was arts in the house, essentially.
Yeah. I mean, there was my parents had a a very, very small one. My parents, by the time I was on the planet, had a record player that lived in like a wooden box in the living room, and we had a collection of, I don't know, maybe that many LPs, and they were mostly things like show tunes, musical soundtracks. There are a handful of classical records in there that I remember very clearly. I remember there was an album in there that was a recording of the Adrian Bolt conducting the London Philharmonic, playing the Planet Suite, Holst's Planet Suite.
Yeah.
And that's got I remember being very, very little and listening to that and thinking, I don't really understand this, but this is really doing something.
It'll move you. Yeah, no home should be without it. Like,
yeah. So yeah, but what really happened? So that was Carla's kind of an abridged version of Carla. Then went off to university, and the rest is history.
Yeah, of course.
The stage, and went into television and so on and so forth. But for my part, I didn't really know what I wanted to do, and it wasn't until I went to secondary school. And I met a chap there called Jason Stretch, who's still around, and he's a phenomenal guitarist.
Oh yeah,
and he had a Stratocaster copy, and I went around his house after school, and he played me Jimi Hendrix live at Monterey, and he let me try and strum a few chords on this Strat copy, and we listened to Jimi Hendrix at Monterey, and I've never heard Jimi Hendrix before. And that was like a really significant moment in my personal kind of development, because I suddenly thought, I think there's something here now.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't long after that I remember listening to a lot of Rush at the time, and a lot of heavy metal at the time, and a lot of Jimi Hendrix, and saving up for my first guitar. Which I've got a very strong memory of. I used to have a Saturday job cleaning the windows of the chemist shop in my hometown, and they'd pay me £4.50, and tidy up the stockroom and clean the windows each week. And the older brother of a classmate of mine, a guy called Mark Slaney, who was in my form at secondary school. His older brother, who I think was called Darren, had this electric guitar for sale, right? And it was, and I don't know, I'd got wind of this and said, well, I'm really, really interested. And I think I went over to his house after his school, and his brother showed me this guitar, and I went, I'm in. And so I saved up my wages cleaning the windows of the chemist shop, and that's that. Until I had the 70 quid. And then I can remember walking it was quite a long way to the next town over. Well, it's not really in the next town, but to a place called in Hillingdon, and to the Slaney's house, and giving his brother the money, and coming away with this pointed Westone, terrible guitar. Yeah. I mean, it looked amazing because it was pointed, right? Yeah. And it's red, and he put some sort of Van Halen kind of tape sort of stripes on it, because I don't know what was. He kind of added to it and decorated it, and he gave it to me in a soft case. And of course, soft cases are meant for that kind of soft case, but it was meant for an acoustic guitar, so it had a rounded back. So I remember carrying it back, walking home with it, and the sort of back point sort of sticking out of the case. And that was it. And that was me then.
Already not fitting into boxes, Jason, if I can draw an awkward metaphor.
Well, no, quite. Yeah. I'd stopped fitting into boxes long before that, a square peg in a round hole. And but then I had a guitar, so then I had means, right? It's something to do. So I basically spent the rest of my time associating with a small gang of people at school who were, and there was another bloke who didn't go to our school, but it was a friend of some people that I was at school with. And we were definitely, it's funny, I was talking to someone about this the other day. We were the uncool kids.
Yeah.
So at school, there were like, the popular children and the children who were into the things that were current at the time, like the new romantic movement and Frankie Goes to Hollywood and what was big at that point in the 80s. And there was this very, very small clique of us who, wore denim, were trying to grow our hair long, had sort of shoulder length hair, and listened to like old records from the 70s and what was the new wave of British heavy metal, really.
Yeah, yeah.
And then emerging into what was 83, 84 kind of Venom, and then into the what became the thrash metal scene. So I had this guitar and these other friends who were interested in kind of making music, and so that was great because you had people to show you stuff and you could exchange ideas and licks essentially, and techniques, or in my case lack thereof. And I just spent the rest of my time at school not going. Just not going to school. Just I sat at home with a small record collection. The record player that had been in the living room, I think like my siblings had all left the house and I was at home on my own with my mum. And so I liberated the record player and put it in my room. And I had this small collection of records, one of which was a Jimi Hendrix compilation album that I'd got for Christmas. And I'd just sit at home and try and play the songs by ear. And not do a very good job of it, but just try and make the same sounds and move my fingers around the strings and the fretboard, the fingerboard, until it sounded like something like an approximation of what I was hearing coming out of the speakers. And that was essentially how I began playing the guitar and what ended my education. Well, certainly my formal academic education, because I stopped going to school. And my mum would come in the mornings and she'd say, why aren't you going to school? And I go, I've got like a private study period. And she'd be like, well, get yourself off to work. And as soon as she's gone, I'd be like, yeah, great. Turn the amp on, put a record on, make a cup of tea, and then play the guitar. And that was it.
Are you completely self-taught? Did you ever pursue any formal, guitar tutelage after that or anything?
Not really. Yeah. I've had a couple of guitar lessons over the years. Normally, when I felt stuck, there is no normal to it.
Yeah.
I attempted to get, because it's really frustrating being self-taught, and it takes a long time. And this is all, of course, long before the internet and before YouTube, where there's loads of great resources, right?
Yeah.
This was like, you could get video cassettes, tuition videos. There was a company called REH that used to make these tuition videos. And so a couple of musician friends would buy, like, I think someone had the Vinnie Moore tape, and somebody else had I can't remember who it was, maybe Frank Gambale. And they would come with a book. And so, but I'm just, too impatient. I can't read tablets properly to this day.
Yeah.
I guess so. Back to having lessons. Yeah, I found a guitar teacher. I went a local guitar teacher. I went along twice, and I wasn't really working. Really, I just, again, was too sort of impatient to listen and follow the traditional path, of whatever he was trying to communicate. By that time, I just wanted to be Millie Petrosa. I wanted to be Quorthon from Bathory and Millie Petrosa.
Yeah. And at that stage, you'd already learned to play a little bit, which meant that having any kind of advice, it's easier to dismiss a little bit, not necessarily dismiss it, but I imagine taking guitar lessons from the start would be easier than if you'd already made some progress.
Yeah, it's like most things in life, I'm sure it was a double-edged sword, completely. Yeah. But, you go along to see some bloke and he's talking to you about caged playing and the pentatonic scale, which now I'd be really interested in.
Yeah.
Right? But, when I was like 14 or 15, I think it was 15 when I got my guitar. 14, maybe. That age. and listening to, well, I don't think Slowly We Rock was out then, but that, the thrash metal records and so on, listening to Bonded by Blood.
Yeah.
And thinking, why should I play like that?
Yeah.
Bollocks to your pentatonic scale. Let's play fast. You know?
I think Kerry King has a lot to answer for as well in letting people believe. Well, I say letting people believe. It's a truism that you can play guitar like that and be successful, where you just cram as many notes into as short a space of time as possible, and that's a possible guitar solo on some of the greatest thrash metal albums of all time. Do you know what I mean? That Kerry King was, in a sense, a guitar god for a lot of people, and I say that with no judgment or implication. But
no, completely right. And those early Slayer records were, I mean, they were a massive influence, right?
Yeah, you can hear that, I think, in your work.
I mean, but I don't know that if you think about the kind of, I almost said cliche, but it's not, is it? If you think about the genesis of thrash metal, and that kind of coming together of kind of punk and the new wave and pre-hardcore, what was known as kind of like crossover.
Yeah.
If you listen to, there's so many really exciting records from that time, and musicianship isn't necessarily particularly strong in some of them. And does it matter? No, not really. No. In the same way that
You're right.
Kind of think, you don't listen to a Pistols. I mean, actually, if you think about Pistols, the Pistols recordings, because of the way they recorded, they're actually pretty bloody spot on.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of some, I don't know, shabby old punk records and some shabby old. I was talking to someone yesterday about Cryptic Slaughter, right? Yeah. So if you listen to Stream of Consciousness, that's just like four nutcases, isn't it? Like college nutcases playing as fast as they can.
Yeah.
And dreadful recordings, right? And musicianship, not so much. Does it matter? That record's awesome. I adore it. It's just pure energy. It's just like, we don't give a shit. This is what we're doing. This is what we're into. Have this.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably what should be written on my grave. That could be my epitaph. I don't give a shit. Have this.
Have this. Yeah. Yeah. And that ethos might have reached its peak on Scum, because both sides of Scum were two different lineups, but like committed to the same thing, which is just like, right, get a load of this, and that's not any denigration of the playing, particularly with regards to Mickey Harris, who there's stuff that he's doing on that record that is still, the influence just
seminal.
Yeah, completely. But was guitar your first instrument?
No.
Yeah, because
no. So I started. My sister had I think she was Polish, a Polish piano teacher in Ealing called Madame Resmer, and I got dragged along there when I was 5, and I just remember going there and the house smelling a bit funny, and Madame Resmer having a really unusual to my ear voice, and I was just a bit frightened of her.
Yeah.
So I tried to not go again, and I think I was successful. I went a couple of times and tickled the ivories a bit.
Yes.
Later on, I had some piano lessons. I can't remember where, before I went to secondary school, and I think I took grade 1 piano. But when I was at primary school, I discovered, I don't even know how I was introduced to it. Can't remember, but I remember playing the B-flat cornet. And that was cool because I learned to read then.
Yeah.
But if you play trumpet or cornet or I don't know, any of those instruments, I'm guessing, you only read the treble clef. There's no bass because they're not bass instruments, right? So to this day, I can read the treble clef, but I can't really read the bass.
As far as it goes, yeah.
So, but I think I did a couple of grades of that, and then I went off and through some school associates who played brass instruments, joined, curiously, the local silver band.
Okay.
And that was awesome. In that they had too many cornet players. They didn't need a 5th cornet. They already had 4th cornet. So they needed another one, right? So the bandmaster, said, "You can play baritone euphonium, right? We need a second baritone." So I got given this baritone euphonium thing, and we used to go and play like the Royal Parks in the summer. We sit on the grandstands, and I've got some memories of being very, very young and playing in Royal Parks on the bandstands. And the baritone euphonium, as I remember, always plays the pa in the umpa.
Mm-hmm.
So you're playing on the offbeat, right? And in musical notation, when a phrase is repeated, you probably know this.
Yeah.
They just write a number in the bottom of the stave or underneath the stave.
Mm-hmm.
So if there's 32 bars of the phrase that repeats, it just says 32. So it means you've got to be able to count, right?
Yeah.
So you've got to play this repetitious phrase, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got to go, right, well, that's cycle 1, right? And that's cycle 2, and that's cycle 3, and blah, 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 blah. And when you're sort of, I don't know, 10, I don't know, my attention span's still not great. But back then, my brain would wander off and I wouldn't have a clue where we were in whatever we were playing, some Glenn Miller song or other, or I don't know what it was. So there was this old gentleman called Arthur Hard who played first baritone, and I just look at his valve fingers and wait for him to change and go, right, now we're back, game on, we're into the next phrase.
I was just going to say, actually, whenever you play music at that age, I'll not ask you to speak for everybody on this, but what is the understanding of what music is for children? Do you know what I mean? You're taught to do something because I guess maybe they offer it at school, or your folks want you to get into it, or whatever it is. But so by that stage, you'd probably tried your hand at a couple of instruments. Was it something that you enjoyed? Was it something that you understood?
Not really.
Yeah, you're just doing it because
not really. I don't even know. I guess there was no PlayStation. I'm really grateful and really glad that I had those weird, disparate, formative early musical experiences, because in hindsight, whatever experience, you can take learnings from anything you do, can't you? Just about.
Of course.
So in that sense, looking back, there's still stuff to this day that's useful. Like I could read the treble clef, for example. Yeah. That has its applications, certainly. So I'm really grateful that I had the opportunity to do that. Did I enjoy it? Not so much. When I started to really enjoy playing music was when I discovered when I was introduced to the guitar.
Yeah.
And then I thought, oh, okay, this has something. This is something that I find that I'm excited about this, and I'm excited to learn about it. And I just want to know more about it and how this is done.
Did you stop with the guitar, or did you then discover other instruments after that? Because am I right in saying that you've played more than guitar on Akercocke records? Various bits and pieces. I mean, and I was watching the making of Words the other day, and you've got a hammer dulcimer on there. Did you just think I'll have a go at this, or did you know how to approach an instrument like that? Yeah.
Just have a go.
Yeah,
really.
I want one, and I'm gonna hit it with these things.
Yeah. That's an old. You're exactly right. It's in the hammer dulcimer family, but it's an old Santur. I've sold it now.
That's right, Santur. Sorry, yes, you're right.
No. But I've always wanted there will hopefully come a point where I will get it together to buy a proper hammer dulcimer that holds its tuning and indulge myself to learn to play it. But it's life's really short, right? And you've got to be really careful about how you use your time.
Yeah.
Well, that's a bit profound for 4:45 on a Sunday. But
keep
but no, it's absolutely true, right? So for example, there's an instrument that comes essentially from the Levant called the ney, right? It's a reed flute. It's a 7-sectional reed flute, and it's one of the sounds that to my ear I just find incredibly gratifying. It's a really beautiful, haunting, mystical sounding instrument, and also impossible to play. So it took me years to find one.
Yeah.
To actually buy one. And anyway, I could just bore you.
No, I'll have some more. I'll follow that thread. So did this end up on a record, or?
No, because I can just about get one note out of it. But what I'm saying is what I was getting to was about time. If I did nothing else with the rest of my life, hopefully there's some more to come, right? But play the ney, You know, in 2 years, I might be able to get 3 notes out of it. You see what I'm saying?
I get you. Yeah.
So you need to be selective. So now, if I have any time, you know, to indulge with music, I tend to play the guitar because I've got a foothold on that already.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I've got some handholds on the rock.
Yeah.
No pun intended.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas with these other instruments that I would love to indulge my passion and experiment and learn more.
Yeah.
Is there really enough time? I don't know.
Could not be. Yeah, that's a pretty good way of looking at it. Did you? I'll skip ahead a little bit. I'm gonna skip over Salem Orchid, not for any reason other than there's something in particular that I wanted to ask you about. But
sure.
What did you do between musically, if anything? What did you do between Salem Orchid and the foundation of Akercocke in '97?
I made a lot of electronic music.
Yeah,
a lot. Yeah. So my thinking changed a lot. I met interesting people who communicated new ideas around sound and the appreciation of sound.
Mm-hmm.
And I became very interested in the idea of creating sounds that had never been heard before. And so one of the ways that you can do that is, you know, to take take synthesizers. You can start with a synthesizer, it doesn't have to be, and then manipulate it in such a way as to produce a sound that has never been heard before. Quite simply. You know, it may be akin to something that particular instrument is known for, right? Or it might be completely different, you know, because the nature of those instruments is such that you can do that. So, and then I got my hands on a very, very rudimentary sampler, which was absolutely fascinating. And we'd do things like, I would do things like everything with the sounds that went into the sampler or came out of the sampler were stored on floppy disks.
Yeah.
And so things like taking a magnet, right, and rubbing it across the floppy disk, which would disrupt the way in which the data had been stored on that disk. But if you didn't destroy the boot sector, right, you could put it back into the sampler and it would load the essentially corrupted sound that you had created. Yes. Well, it's a random experiment, right? And so by doing that, you can get some really, really interesting sounds. You can do, you know, I'm just telling you stuff that you already know, but in very much in a kind of, what am I thinking of? The BBC Radiophonic Workshop, right?
Yeah. So,
you know, I would do experiments with, you know, just like a delay unit and a microphone, or a pitch shifter and that was absorbing for me. So what did I do between Salem Orchid and Akercocke? I spent a lot of time messing about with kit.
Yeah.
And making records that were often very atonal, often very difficult to listen to.
Yeah.
And tremendous fun to make.
Did you release them under your own name, or were they under project names, or were they released at all?
So, there's quite a lot out there.
Yeah.
Some of it is more coherent as music than other pieces. And this is one of the other things that I enjoyed about that time was there was an anonymity around it, and so it was as much fun to create these imaginary artists, you know, and imagine what they might be like, and then give them life with this sound, and then release it. So there's a long list of pseudonyms. Yeah.
Is there anything, even one in particular, that you might recommend to potential viewers of this that you're proud of, or even something that you're not proud of that might be interesting? Or
I don't know that I'm especially proud. I'm not particularly proud of any of it. Is that the right thing to say? Who cares? You know, it was just they're records that document what I was doing at the time.
Yeah.
No, there's a pseudonym of mine which is Neuroviolence.
Okay.
And there's a remix of an artist, a very unusual artist called Heist.
Mm-hmm.
I did a remix of a Heist track, which is called Corridors.
Okay.
So if you find that the Neuroviolence remix of Heist's Corridors,
yeah,
something that probably, does it epitomize? Yeah, it epitomizes the ethos of the thinking. It epitomizes the thinking of the time. So all the drums on that are made using a Korg MS-20 synthesizer.
Yeah.
All of the other sounds, the key lead sound in that is actually Paul Scanlan playing the guitar.
Okay.
And there's nothing remotely recognizable as guitar in that record.
Yeah.
So what did I do? I made a lot of really noisy records. And
so there's the word I was looking for, was noisy. So
angry and noisy records.
Yeah. So I used to have this, I wouldn't call it a scheme, but when I was at high school, I don't really remember how I got into this situation, but I spent a lot of time in detention, probably for bad manners. I wasn't a bad kid, but when I say that now, maybe I was. But I used to have the earbuds threaded up from must have been a tape player, maybe. We have earbuds then, yeah. Up the blazer sleeve and up here, right? So the earbud goes in here, but that means if they say, "Are you listening to music?" you can go, "No, I'm not," because there's nothing there, because it's in the palm, right?
I like that.
And I remember on three separate occasions before I cottoned on and stopped doing it, I was busted for listening to Go to Mendy's. And I think what was coming through, there's something about the higher frequencies of that record were coming through. You just, even at a lower volume, it just something eked out. And I was thinking about this recently. I was listening to the album this week in preparation for talking to you, and noise is so important in Akercocke. And even if there's a couple of examples I want to highlight to you. The first one is the opening of Menstrual Blood and Semen.
Yeah.
Not just in the conventional, maybe it's unconventional use of a conventional instrument, but the way the guitar sounds, the first sound you hear in that album, what the fuck is that? Then your vocals come in and they're like double or triple or whatever layered, but there's also that weird rumbly sort of siren sort of thing that's happening there, and then it all just descends into this sort of more like palatable suffocation style, straightforwardness, and then you're like, all right, cool, I'm on my feet here, and then it just goes back off into like fucking speed and everything again. But like, I'm not surprised to hear you say that about this angry noise that you were making in the interim, because that's, for me, probably what sets Akercocke aside from the other bands of the time, and what makes those records so enduring, and why the people that I don't think you really get like, part-time Akercocke fans. You get diehard Akercocke fans, or you get people who fucking hate it. It can't, just can't get on with it at all. Right. But I love the noise, Jason, man. I love it so much, because it's like, like what you've alluded to there, is that you were experimenting with creating sounds that didn't exist, and that's it pays off with those albums, definitely.
Thank you. Thank you especially for mentioning that opening of that record. It's interesting to hear you say that, and makes me think about how much we were on a mission at that time to make the most unlistenable, atonal, hideous music that we could, and I think I've said it a few times over the years. I don't know if anyone's putting attention or cares, but humor's always been tremendously important to what we do.
Yeah.
And someone would come up with a riff, Paul would come up with a riff, I'd come up with a riff, and if we were all falling about on the floor laughing when we listened to it because it was so disturbing, then it was in. That's your benchmark. If it makes you laugh because it's just utterly hideous, it's in the song.
Yeah, you've used the word there. This is another one of my questions I've literally written down here. Was it ever the goal to disturb? Specifically, so obviously that you've just confirmed, that's not disturb. I definitely don't mean with regards to maybe the lyrics and the visuals, but like musically being unsettling and disturbing. It has to have been a goal, because
the whole thrust of it was to make music that we wanted to hear, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That was the motivation, was to make records that we wanted to hear, make music that we wanted to listen to.
Yeah.
Which is funny, isn't it? Because I never listened to any records, but so if you take our collective influences and the melting pot that was happening in sort of 2000 when we were coming up with those songs, there was very much this kind of interest, particularly Paul Scanlan, who's a big appreciator of some very dark electronic music, and Paul Scanlan's a great appreciator of music, in as a subject, right? He's as I think it's fair to say, of everyone who's been a core to the band or floated through the band, there's never been anyone who's not avidly interested in all music, and so between he and I, we were both, aware of these certain records and going to certain parties and hearing certain sounds that no doubt had that influence, that we just wanted to make the most disturbing, hideous, atonal music that we could. And I think in some regards, on occasion, we succeeded. And I think some of those records are sonically quite ugly. And that's what we were after. Yeah.
It was a friend of mine. I don't remember how this came up. I do remember I was talking to him about David's playing style. So this friend of mine never listened to Akercocke, right? A friend of mine for many years, but for whatever reason, he just never came your direction. And I was talking to him about how David played drum and bass on an acoustic kit, essentially as part of his, his myriad skills, and recommended a song to him from the live record that came out a few years ago. I don't know why I used that version, but it was something from Bastard Nazarene, but on the Decades of Devil Worship.
Yeah.
And he listened to that and he said that it was the most, I think he said it was the most perfect sounding, like production wise, music that he'd ever heard. And I was like, right, get Words That Go Unspoken on the go. And he listened to it and he just thought, music cannot sound any better than this. And that record's coming on 20 years old now, but he really appreciated the sound of it. Oh no, I've lost my train of thought. I don't know why I brought this up, but he no, it's gone. I don't know what the point was, other than to pass on, I suppose, his praise of how some of those were. Oh, I do know what it was. Yes. So yes, the reason I recommended Words to him is because Words is a really sonically palatable record, whereas what I love about Goat of Mendes is it's so dry, and I don't know if I could use the word obscure in its sound, but it's it's a beautiful sounding record, but its beauty is in its lack of beauty. Did like Martin Bonsoir would have been a big part of this? Yeah, I mean, did I hear you say on Necrosphere last week that he's still doing front of house for you guys?
That gig we played the other week.
Yeah.
House. We were so unbelievably stoked to, Martin did front of house and unsurprisingly did a fantastic job.
Of course,
he's a very, very skilled and clever man.
But those are the two sort of extremes of the sound, I suppose, are probably Mendes and Words.
But right. There are some very, very obvious reasons for that, in my mind, and that is because it's all been recorded by us.
Yeah.
And what you're listening to is a learning process.
Mm-hmm.
Other people, would have shortcut things or gone to authorities, or been signed right in such a way that you just go to Morris Sound and work with Jim Morris and you have a record that sounded like a heavy metal record, right?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
As so many have, whereas we just recorded everything ourselves, and we were learning on the job, and experimenting on the job. And yes, we had Martin is from a trained engineering background. He went to college and studied sound engineering, right, which is fantastic for us, right? So more our good fortune, but at the same time, there's studying and then there's the doing, there's the praxis, right? So when it comes to, what's the best way to mic up a 4x12? What's the best way to position an overhead, microphone? What should you use, a condenser, or what should you? All of this stuff.
Yeah.
A lot of it was we were kind of figuring our way through on the job. you know, and 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 you can hear that. You can hear that, right? So yeah, Goat of Mendes sounds dry. You know, that was recorded and mixed at Goat of Mendes HQ in Bedfont. You know, if I remember correctly.
I think that's right. Yeah,
it was mixed. I think it was mixed there as well, right? Whereas you get to Corrington, and then they're almost we were still tracking stuff, but we'd realised that something different would happen if we gave it to somebody that gave the mix part to someone who had decades and decades of experience doing that.
Of course, yeah.
And the records turned out very differently from if we'd done all the knob twiddling ourselves.
Yeah. I mean, you could almost bring the word professional. They sound professional in a way. That's not to say that Martin was literally a professional at doing that, but it gives it more of a. Again, I keep using that word palatable, but I just think it's easier to recommend certain Akercocke records to people than others in terms of what they're used to hearing. But then really what you want them to do is, you want it to get something to get its hooks in you. And then you go and explore deeper. And that kind of leads me on, not awkwardly at all, to Leviathan, right? So it hit me this week for the first time that Leviathan stands out as something that couldn't have appeared on the first two albums, because it sometimes you hear a song for the first time and you're like, oh shit, this is like an iconic metal classic. Do you know what I mean? There's something about that song that, I'm not saying it was designed to get into the Kerrang rotation, but it's totally suitable for the Kerrang rotation. And obviously the music video didn't hurt with that, and the target audience of horny young boys as well. But that song has so many parts to it that work just as like you're grabbed. Whereas the first two albums, there's a chaos to those albums where you kind of need to listen to them as records. But Leviathan was a proper, like a metal single, I feel anyway. And I was wondering, was there any sort of permission to broaden your appeal with writing Corrington? Did you think we could allow ourselves to be a little bit bigger? Nothing like that.
No.
Yeah, it just the way things were going was the way they went. Yeah,
it was just what was going on in Bedfont at that time. It was just where we were at that point in time.
Mm-hmm.
And each record is very much a reflection of that.
Yeah.
It's just what was going down. The early, all of the early stuff, I would say, all the way up to when Matt Wilcock came along. Which was, we'd written, Paul and I had written most of, at least half of Words, I think, I can't remember. And then Matt brought some songs, but up until that point in time, just about every song to that point was created by some friends standing in a room in Bedfont, just shooting the shit.
Yeah.
After work, playing some riffs. Paul would turn up with a riff and go, "I've got this," and we go, "Right, brilliant." And does it make us laugh? Yeah. Right. Let's. Or do we get something from it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Let's work on that. Or I'd bring something in, or and we just smash stuff together, and that's how the songs were created. That's how they were curated and put together. Was some people in a room, Theobald's coming up with all of his own bass parts.
Yes.
And David kind of crossing the sort of percussive boundary of course coming up with the drum parts, but so having a view on, well, what if musically this happened, or that sounds okay, but what if, and then we, shape stuff until we had something that we thought we were satisfied with, or that sounded something like a song.
Yeah.
I think that's always been very much at the heart of it, is about songwriting.
Mm-hmm.
Even if those songs may not feature any sort of traditional structures, or maybe really harsh and difficult to listen to.
Yeah.
In our mind, at Minds, collectively, what we were trying to do was write songs.
Yeah.
So I forgot what the question was, but yeah.
Oh, just in terms of Leviathan having something a little bit more accessible is a lazy word, but it's the easiest word I can think of for it. There's something about Leviathan that's a little more single ready, I think, than the rest of the songs on that album. Would you have recognized that after the song was completed?
No. So it was, I've probably got this wrong, but if I remember correctly, it was Ear 8 Records who said that one.
Yeah.
You know, and I remember making the edit. I did the edit to cut the middle section out for the video version.
Yeah.
And cut, I don't know what, 3 minutes of music out of it.
It's quite a chunk taken out of it. Yeah.
The original song's what, seven minutes long, something like that.
Something, yeah. My two favorite moments in Akercocke songs. One of them is in Leviathan, and you know when the keyboards come in at the end and you've got that.
How funny, yeah.
Over the top of that, there's just this, and I don't know what that is. If it's a synth thing or if it's a guitar thing ringing out, but just
on the guitar.
Is that what it is? The inclusion of that sound just puts that through the roof. It just takes me somewhere else. I think it's such a little musical decision, but it has so much resonance with me. I can't explain it, but it just takes me somewhere else, you know.
Thanks for sharing that. It's really amusing that that's the starting point for that song, the genesis of that song.
Really, yeah.
Those harmonics. I remember distinctly turning up to Bedfont one night after work, all of us being in the room, and I had the harmonic part and the underlying ba da 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 da.
Yeah.
Moves in fifths, and I remember, and I also remember it when I first played it being what's the word? There being some mirth in the room, but let's just say not necessarily the kindest. You know, I think they were like, "What the f is this?" You know, like I think David got it, but Paul and people were like, "What the what?" Yeah. But that's where Leviathan started. With that section of the song.
Yeah, that's amazing. My other favorite bit is in Shelter from the Sand, and again, this comes back to the chaos and the noise. And I'll preface this by saying, right, like hell is a really interesting, you know, topic, and I've seen
hell.
Sorry,
you say hell.
I phrased that really strangely. Yeah, hell. So
hell is a really interesting topic. Yeah, I got on with it.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. Know my audience, you know. But so I've thinking about this. I've seen great movies about hell and shit movies about hell. There's more shit movies about hell, and you know, great books and shit books and comic books and fucking everything. But I think there's a section in Shelter from the Sand is what hell is the most hellish sounding thing that I can think of. If I say that without telling you which bit it is, can you guess which bit I'm talking about?
I think I've got a fairly good idea. Yeah. Is it all the crazy voices in the background?
Fucking hell, Jason! Where the fuck did that come from? Like, because that is just
demented, right?
It is, and that's the word I've written down. Demented. You keep. This is brilliant. There's a wavelength thing happening here where you keep preempting words that I've used to describe you. But so what I have written down, if I can just get this up here, I hope this isn't unprofessional, but I've written in terms of your vocal range. It encompasses. Okay, here we go. Here's your list. Soft singing, quiet singing, heavy singing, loud singing, growls, gurgling, yucks, ears, blaps, yelps, cackling, and audible derangement. Oh, that's derangement. That's not demented, so I'm not right to say that. But
it's close enough. Same difference.
Same difference. It's a DE word.
That cracks me up. David and I, there's that Arena documentary. Do you know the Arena heavy metal documentary where Napalm Death are interviewed?
Yes.
Someone's mum's house. Mickey Harris makes that comment about the gruff vocals, the screaming vocals, and yeah. Well, there you go. That's quite a list you've got there, right?
Well, so
more than the gruff vocals and the screaming vocals, there's also the demented or deranged vocals. Yeah. Add those into the mix as well.
You've mentioned earlier about the idea about the sense of humor, and another one of my notes here just says ask him about his sense of humor. But there's an awful lot of sense of humor. The thing about this is, I'll draw a comparison here between Akercocke and Immortal, which is that the music itself is self-contained and serious and pure, but the presentation of the music can allow for that invitation of the sense of humor. And I've never seen anybody enjoy themselves as much as you when you're playing that music live. And there's a thing that you do when you're playing Leviathan live. It seems to be fairly consistent across performances where you make this sound that starts up here, this kind of squealy pig sort of sound, and then drag it down to the depths. So it's like, here's my vocal range in one sound. You know the sound I'm talking about. Like,
I know the bit you mean.
I mean, it's so entertaining, but it is so, the sense of humor is just like, really, when you think about it, you cannot present this music to thousands of people. You could listen to that music in a dark room. Like, if I put that music on for my wife, for example, it would give her a panic attack. No joke. Like, she just could not handle it at all. But in a sea of people at a festival or something, you have to acknowledge the sort of inherent ridiculousness of music like that, because it's beautiful that it exists, but you're taking that sentiment of you guys, you know, pissing yourselves laughing when you're creating it in a sweaty rehearsal room and putting it out there for, you know, you have to approach it with humor. And I think you do. Like, I think, Jason, if I could offer you a possibly embarrassing compliment, you are heavy metal's finest cackler. Your live cackling. I mean, the Go to Mandy's live stream that Hotel Radio broadcast a few years ago, the range of cackles that you perform live that aren't even on the record, I was like, Jesus Christ, this guy's fucking nuts. But like, it's amazing. Yeah. Again, something else for the tombstone, like, you know. Metal's finest cackler.
Man, he could cackle.
Yeah. But like, talk to me about your sense of humor, Jason. What makes you laugh? What are you into that way?
What am I into? Oh my gosh, where to begin? I listen to something that Coogan, Simon Day, Felix Dexter.
Oh, Down the Line.
I just listen to it on loop.
Yeah.
Just,
I've just finished listening to the whole series again, everything. I've got the whole thing. It's the finest. It could be the finest British comedy export. I think sometimes that show is just peerless. Like,
I remember the first time. I remember exactly where I was, driving on a dual carriageway back from band practice, putting the radio on in my car, and it was on Radio 4.
Yeah,
and I listened to it, and I thought, this is really weird. There's a phone-in show on Radio. What is it? Yeah. And is this Radio 4? And then realizing, you know, and holy shit. And I kid you not, it's become like a constant in my life.
Yes, same.
Like when I'm shaving or whatever.
Yeah.
I just put it on and I listen to it almost constantly. So that really tickles. Well, there you go. What makes me laugh? That makes me laugh.
That's fucking brilliant. Do you remember where you were the first time you heard? Do you know the episode where Reese is in Maida Vale in the haunted studio?
No, I don't remember where I was the first time I heard it, but oh my God. Do you know what? I had that's the beginning of, that's the end of season 2, I think.
It is, yeah.
And I was listening to it just before you and I spoke today.
Really? Yeah. Because there's just, like, listening to that on headphones and all of there's such expert sound design that's used to unsettle poor unsuspecting.
Open YouTube, right? Will it show the last thing I was listening to? No. Oh well, okay. I was just listening.
I trust you. It's
literally just listening to it.
Because I was thinking about the first time that I listened to it. I remember I just got off the train in Belfast. You know the bit where the guy's listing the days of the week in relation to when the kids go back to school, and then whenever he says Thursday, it's got this like Thursday sort of thing. You know where yes, it's amazing, and that scream at the end. And the effect of the muffling and it's spectacular. Did you ever listen to the Simon Day show?
No.
It was a Radio 4. So the Simon Day show is basically Simon Day. I kind of think of it as like an unofficial sort of sequel to Down the Line, because a lot of the characters that he does on Down the Line, Tony Becton, Jeffrey Allerton, but they're like full episodes of those characters playing.
Oh, where can I get this?
I'll send it to you. I'll send you a link. But like it is the best thing that any of that Fast Show crew have ever done. So it's basically Simon Day, and Felix Dexter plays a regular character in every episode. And then, you know, Simon Greenall that played Michael and Alan Partridge. He's like the manager of a comedy club. So each episode is set in a comedy club. Simon Day turns up as one of his characters. So about half the material is sort of in character delivered to an audience, and then the rest of it is like the backstage stuff. So it has a little bit of that I'm Alan Partridge thing too. I don't know. I find it very, very hard sometimes to describe how good I think Simon Day is a truly underappreciated comedy writer. I think he in one sentence or in the choice of a name, you know, he's beyond. Like he's in one of the episodes, you know, when he's talking about the old boys at one of the schools and down the line, and he mentions Sergio Leone and just the choice of Sergio Leone.
I don't know, old boys who come back to my school, Kenny Noy,
Kenny Noy,
yeah, the raffle, but I don't know, Sergio Leone, whatever, amazing. Amazing.
You should take a look on YouTube. Michael Cumming, who directed Brass Eye, he's got a channel called Oxide Ghosts, and he's been putting up. You might have seen the 10-minute making of Down the Line that's on YouTube.
Yes, behind the mic.
That's it. So he's got all the footage from those recording sessions, and he's been uploading them in chunks. So there's basically so far there's over an hour's worth of stuff that didn't make that 10 minutes, but it's all on YouTube under Oxide Ghosts, and you should check it out because there's a ton of deleted scenes and interviews. And
would you be kind enough to ping me a link?
I will. I'll put it all in a care package and I'll get it over to you. But
thank you. I really appreciate that.
100%. Yeah. Right. That's the comedy done. I'm conscious of time, as they say. That's the phrase in work meetings. I'm conscious of time. So I'm going to rattle through some more crucial bits and pieces. You've just played Fortress.
Yeah.
How many Corns and rituals have you done now? That wasn't the first, was it?
No, I think we did the same thing at Damnation 2 years previous.
You did that. That's right. Yeah. And then you're playing Corns and at Marlin Death Fest next year as well.
Yes.
When I saw you, Jason, it was touring Renaissance and Extremis, which in some ways I think is, what's the best way to put this? I don't want to pick favorites. There's something about that album that makes me think it's the best at something. I don't know what it is. And whether it's that there's a maturity to it, there's something about the going away for 10 years and coming back and putting out an album like that, instead of coming back and doing another, you know, goats and boobs and just insanity and Satan being in, you know, almost every song lyric. There's something about Renaissance and Extremis that it just really speaks to me. I don't know how to put it. I think it's a extraordinary record. I think it's such a rich album. I think Don't Be Fooled Because I Walk and Talk, Don't Be Fooled, you know, Because I'm Dead Inside is one of the most fabulous things that you've ever come out with.
That's David Gray's poetry, not mine.
Well, and that's something I got to ask you about David's writing too. But so anyway, long story short, when I saw you guys played that album in full, and I didn't know I was in for that whenever I went into that show. So obviously, starting with the first two songs is a common enough thing on a live tour supporting a record. But then to get into the third song, I started to realize, oh fuck, they're playing the whole album, and I was really, really pleased about that.
I'm so glad to hear you say that, because I've been really pissed off.
Really?
I mean, oh God. If I went to see Slayer and they played, you know, their latest album and didn't roll out, you know, Hell Awaits and Necrophobic, I'd be totally vexed.
Yeah, well, so I think it was the whole of Renaissance. I never know how to pronounce that word. And then A Skin for Dancing In, maybe Enraptured by Evil. So it was great seeing Sam doing, you know, that bit near the end of Skin for Dancing In. You know, yeah, that's the one. Yeah, but Decades of Devil Worship is more or less a run through of Bastard Nazarene. And so you've done that. You've done Mendes, you've done Corns, and then you've done Renaissance. Is this? Would you say this is the direction you guys are moving in? Would you be interested in playing Words or Antichrist as live shows, or is it, you know, what do you think?
I don't know. I really don't. I think it would be it'd be taxing. It would be an interesting challenge.
Yeah,
like, because those albums. I mean, well, I've got songs that you were asking about how the song. I think you were asking about how the songs were created, or
mm-hmm.
I think you were asking about how Leviathan was created.
Yeah,
and it led me to wax on about some blokes in a room making music that they liked. But you know, when Matt came over from Australia, and he was really, really instrumental in the recording of Words That Go Unspoken, and he and I finished the record off because some of the songs Paul and I had created, and then some of the songs but Matt brought complete songs to the table.
Yeah,
maybe like I tweaked a couple of bits here and there, but Matt, that was where it all changed. And so then by the time we got to Antichrist, I wrote complete songs, and then Matt wrote complete songs.
Yeah.
Right. And so that was a very different way of working and turning up and going, the song goes like this instead of.
Of course, yeah.
Right. So anyway, Matt is a tremendous technician. I mean,
he's unreal. Yeah.
And it would be the thought of trying to do Words in its entirety or Antichrist in its entirety. I'd probably have to go to school for about 6 months and just play the guitar for 8 hours a day.
Yeah.
Because it's so bloody difficult to play. I'm just not good enough.
Yeah.
But it would be a challenge. I mean, I wouldn't rule it out. Yeah, Antichrist, I don't know. I'm not really a fan of that record at all.
I read that in the book, yeah, and I was surprised to hear that, because that, for whatever reason, so I remember I was listening to you guys at school, but never properly got into Akercocke. My friend Barry, he was the one that kind of expanded my horizons with regards to a lot of metal music, and he was a big fan of you guys. I didn't really get into the band properly until I don't want to say split up, but I think the phrase you used in the book was stopped. That Akercocke kind of stopped for a while. So it would have been post Antichrist that I started paying attention to those records, and I would say, probably without exaggeration, over the course of the next couple of years, became my favorite band. There was so much I found, like I was saying to you earlier, and Jackie said the same thing to you when he was talking to you at Fortress too. It does, Akercocke would be the favorite band of an awful lot of its fans. There's just something there that you kind of subsume it into your soul a little bit. So then Renaissance was my first album as a fan, but Antichrist was the first one for me that really made me, pay attention. But I was surprised to hear that you weren't as big a fan of that album. Is that because, did you struggle with the bringing songs in thing, Jason? Was there something for you that was lost there in the less collaborative approach?
Maybe. I never really thought about it. I don't think it sounds very good, and that's hard to say.
Yeah.
I think it sounds like a bit like a band who were fulfilling a contractual obligation.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that, not in the care in the songs. Songs are all right, but I think there's a couple of them there that are all right. But I think sonically, we definitely did that, on the cheap.
Yeah.
And that was, I can't remember why exactly, but, it was, I don't think it sounds very good. And we had loads and loads of technical problems with that. Like just really tedious crap technical problems. Like when we moved the files between studios, stuff somehow got out of sync. Then, loads of time. And it just, there was a point, we rented a studio in North London to do the mix. I think we got it for a week, maybe it was like a full 7 days. Can't remember. But Carl Bareham, who was the second front of house engineer after Martin Bonsoir, Carl sadly not with us anymore. An incredibly talented man as a musician in his own right, as well as a technician. R.I.P. Carl. We drafted him in to do the mix, and I don't think it was very fair. And I had the sense when we were in those very long sessions that we're polishing a turd. What I mean by that was like we were trying to fix these technical things, like drums that had gone out of sync and errors that had been made in the tracking of the album. That there was so much time given over to trying to put those things right, and not giving the mix the sheen that it needed.
Yeah.
So at the end of it was we ran out of time, we ran out of money, and it was like, well, it's done.
Yeah.
And it wasn't really in my mind.
I get you.
It was kind of like we ran out of time, we ran out of money, and so that record to me, it doesn't. It's not one of my favorites, really. That's
a shame to hear, but I understand all of. You've got experiences attached to the creating of that record. The Promise is a highlight of that album. I mean, that was an experiment in basically what can you do with one chord.
And that was a knee jerk, right? And I think there's an element, I've never really discussed it publicly or I don't think even privately, but there's a petulance in the Promise, which was a knee jerk reaction, because I think Matt really tested me as a musician, right? Because he's incredibly, well, he's prolific and he's gifted, right? And I'm neither of those things. So it would be, he would turn up at the rehearsal room and he'd go, I've come up with this. And I'd think, oh my God, that riff's so difficult. How the fuck am I going to play that? And then I'd spend like, I don't know how long. And I could see, and then there was so much to absorb. And I think it probably has some reflection on where I was in my life as well. I don't think I was in a good place personally.
Yeah.
So I was turning up to practices, and we'd get to the room, you know, a couple of days later, and I would have forgotten everything that he'd shown me, and not really have practiced it very much.
Yeah.
And I could see the disappointment in his face, and after a while, you know, he's a lovely chap, Matt. Don't make no mistake, you know. But I would have worn anyone's patience thin, you know. And he you know, okay, so this is the riff again, and I'd be like, what? Can't get my finger. Anyway, so the Promise, I just went, well, fuck all that. I'm going to write something that's got one chord in it, you know, and I'm going to demonstrate that you don't have to have 18 riffs that require the skill of, I don't know what, you know, Al Di Meola. That's a bit much. Sorry, Al. You know, but you know, someone, you know, you can make a song with one chord.
Yeah.
And that was just, I was just like, this is kind of like my childish kind of kickback.
That's fascinating. That's fascinating. Yeah. I mean, I'll never listen to it the same again, but I'll probably listen to it with more appreciation. I think that leading into, was it My Apterous Angel? I think that's the highlight of that album for me, is those. Wowzers!
Thank you.
You know, those two tracks. How are you fixed for time, Jason? How long have you got before you?
I'm all right. If you can give me 2 minutes, just I'm gonna just grab another drink from the fridge. I'll be right back.
100%.
Sorry about that. Right.
No, you're okay.
Yeah. So I've just been instructed that I'm good for 10 minutes.
Good. Okay. Quentin, Lucian playing with the band now.
Holy shit! Yeah.
And he's fucking unreal. But
I'll say, yeah.
I guess the question is, this was the last time I saw the band. Paul was involved, but it's a tricky thing maybe to ask, because Akercocke plays so infrequently. Jason, is it something that Paul's not interested in doing anymore? I mean, to the extent that you can speak for him, might we see Paul on stage with you guys again? What's the sort of status of the group at the minute? It's Kieran Allen on bass as well. Is that right?
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. You know, we're just blessed to have those two guys. Really, they've just injected a new je ne sais quoi into what we do. You know, there's a tremendous positivity and there's a great ease about. You know, I think we did 4 practices for that Scarborough show.
Yeah.
And they were just immensely enjoyable because, there was just a lightness to the proceedings, and having those two gentlemen, you know, dedicate their time to play with us has definitely given us a kick up the arse. Yeah, it's fantastic. It's fantastic. Mr. Scanlan, I'll never say never. I just think like Paul is really unique, and I say that with a tremendous amount of love and respect. There's something about Paul's playing that is unmistakable. I think you know, the world is full of guitarists, right? There's so many guitar players, tens and thousands, millions of guitar players on the planet, right? Very few of them, I think, have an actual sort of discernible style.
Yeah.
And I think, in my humble opinion, he's one of them. You know, and there's a genius to his playing that could only come from where he's come from, and the amount, the sheer. I've never known anyone like him who's so dedicated to the instrument and the study of the instrument. But I think if anything, he's probably outgrown us, you know.
So?
And I'm very excited to learn what he does with his skills next.
Yeah.
I've heard some whispers. I'm not in touch with particularly anyone from the heavy metal scene other than the dudes that I play in Akercocke with.
Yeah.
You know, I don't really, but I've heard some whispers that he's got some plans afoot, and you definitely haven't heard the last of Scanlan.
I will really look forward to it. Jason, I remember him playing the solo at the end of a particularly cool September live. You know, I honestly think that's one of the top 10 solos on a metal record of all time. That thing is a work of beauty. And I remember watching him play that solo live with appreciation, and it's fucking incredible. And you had the trumpet as well. Is it a trumpet, that thing, you know, that you play?
It was,
yeah. That was that was a great gig.
Thank you.
You playing infrequently, I understand, is what's the best way to put it? Akercocke is not like a live. No, that's not the right word. It is live music, but as a band, it's not a constant concern anymore in terms of when you were on Peaceful, Eric, and Peaceful again. You know, you play infrequently. Would you? I suppose I have two questions. What does it mean to you having this? As somebody who works and comes back to it periodically, and would you like to have more of it? Do you wish that the scene or the music industry or whatever it is, the way the world is, allowed for you know, more frequent Akercocke appearances, more frequent, you know, writing and release of music? Or are you satisfied with what you have from it? But yeah, that's short version is, what does it mean to you having Akercocke, and would you like to have more of it?
I tell you what, it's conversations like this feed into how genuinely humbling it is when I meet and speak to Akercocke fans, and you realise that you know, we've come to realise over time that these sort of pebbles that we've been throwing into the mill pond from Bedfont, you know, the ripples have had some consequences, right?
Yeah.
And when we were in Scarborough, you know, people came up to the merch table and said, "I've travelled from Canada to come and see you, and I've travelled from Colombia to come and see you, and I've travelled from South Africa and whoa, wowzers!" You know, that's serious, right? You know, and so I can't emphasize enough how humbling that is, and to get the opportunity to come out of the woodwork like we did a couple of weeks ago and play is it's largely just a joyous endeavor.
Yeah.
So and the reasons for that are many, right? I mean, so, you know, just to have the privilege to get up on a stage and play these old songs back to people who, for some of those people, those songs mean something. Wowzers, you know? And whilst I feel, pardon me, that as a band, you know, certainly David and I we're definitely a lot older. And I can't speak for David, but I myself, you know, feel different personally from the person who was involved in the creation of those songs. I still have some, sentimental is the wrong word, visceral connection to the music. And so to get the opportunity to come out and perform it for people who appreciate it is an immense privilege.
Yeah.
You know, that can't be overstated. Do I wish I had more of it? Not really. Yeah. You know, because I think I'm at peace with the fact that it's never going to pay my mortgage. Yeah. It never was.
Yeah,
you know?
Of course.
And that's okay. Would I like to spend more, to have the luxury to devote more of my time to making music?
Yes.
100%. And if I did, in some imaginary world, would some of that time be dedicated to doing things with an Akercocke focus? Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I don't. So I will take what we've got and be very, very thankful for that.
That's very, very nicely put, Jason. I'm going to let you go. The last thing I wanted to say was just having spent some time recently reading the Renaissance kind of extended liner notes and looking at the photography in there. I watched the documentary that Eric put out about the making of words, and there's some footage at the end of that some photography of you and David as tiny young boys, and some of the guys from Salem Orchid, and there's an awful lot of photography from the history of the band, and any chance that you guys can get to acknowledge your debt of gratitude to David's parents, Bob and Doreen. It's always done, and it's always there. And I don't know if you ever saw the episode of the BBC show Living with the Enemy that was done about Cradle of Filth, where the mother went on tour with the band because her son liked the band and she thought that they were devil worshippers and that they were corrupting this young mind. And at the end of it, she basically says, you know what, they're good guys. They're nice boys who love their mums. And there's something about that familial aspect that underneath all of this projection of what you guys projected, what Cradle projected in terms of the visuals and everything, they're just nice dudes and there's a sense of family. And I think because you're prepared to put that out officially with your printed works and the recording of that documentary and everything, that really appeals to me because it's so at odds with the primary aesthetic of Akercocke in terms of the face level thing, what the Northern Ireland, 2007 Nolan show viewers thought that you were all about. That's not what you're all about. It's this tight-knit group. We've got childhood friends, and I think there's something so sweet and maybe sometimes unacknowledged about that. And I know you guys had a loss recently with Federico passing away, and I just wanted to again say that, like, I was just so sorry to hear that because he I said this to David as well, like whenever the live stream was repeated and there was like a live chat thing and you guys were in and out and chatting, and Fed was so gracious about all the times he fucked up during that show, and he was highlighting it in advance. Monster player, brilliant energy. So sad to hear about that, but again, as an appreciator of this sense of family, I just wanted to acknowledge that with you because that was fucking horrible,
Beyond.
Yeah.
Utterly beyond. And I'd like to think that most folk who walk about the planet are intrinsically decent and nice people, but Fed, he was right up there. He was one of the loveliest people that you could ever hope to meet. And just as you've pointed out, he had a generosity of spirit that went through everything that he did. Certainly in the time that I was lucky enough to share with him, tremendous amounts of humor, tremendous amounts of passion, and he gave so much to the music that he adored, and he did it so very, very well.
Yeah.
He just his bass playing is so famous. He's just so he was so gifted. And we will be missing him for a very, very long time.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a big thing in the metal community when that happens. There's enough, even as just listeners and fans, it's felt and shared. And I've talked to friends about what happened with Fed and everything. But no, that's us, Jason. I am enormously grateful that you've shared your afternoon with me, and it's a long time ambition. Like it's stole 10 minutes with you outside that gig in Belfast one time, and I remember telling you how much some of the stuff that you sang about on that latest record meant to me. But I've always wanted to have a proper chinwag with you. So you came back to me faster than anyone that I've asked to do this show, which means that you are a certifiably good dude. Like that's just, that's pretty cool. And I don't know. We've probably some other stuff we could talk about. Maybe we'll catch up again sometime. But
sure.
Look forward to whatever the future holds for you guys. And if you ever make your way back across to the Emerald Isle, I'll be front row center.
God, I'd love to. Love it over there. Absolutely. Oh my gosh.
Well,
And
yeah, we are starving for it. You know, Jason, we have, that's the exact phrase I used when I reached out to David, was I'm a starving Akercocke fan. So yeah, we'll take anything we can get.
Never say never, Paul. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for sharing your afternoon with me, and thank you for I've really enjoyed our Chinwag. It's been ace. Thank you.
Nice one. All right, Jason, man, have a good rest of your weekend. I'll speak to you again sometime.
You too. Take care, Paul. Bye bye.
All the best. Bye bye.